Right, thanks for joining me. Okay, I shall kickstart. Okay, so just read out some routine stuff. So thanks for joining. So please turn off your WhatsApp. Okay, I'll turn off mine as well. Okay, I know that WhatsApp can be very distracting from time to time. Okay, are you all done with turning on your WhatsApp? Okay, and make sure you enlarge my screen. Okay, so that I won't be doing a screen share, so you can actually see, okay, what I'm about to share in a short while. Right? Okay, so thanks. Okay, I will be kickstarting today's lesson. So two announcements here. Okay, announcement one. Okay, please check your inbox. Alright, so I've written through your script last week. Wasn't really that well done. Okay, so please revise on the answer key as well. Right, the second announcement is for those who book an exam consult. I think I've put in the group chat the 3 required documents. Okay, your question paper, your school answer key, and your own answer, especially your school answer. Right, Mr. Teo may be good, but Mr. Teo is not God. Right, so Mr. Teo doesn't know what is the criteria of your school. It's so very important to hound your school teacher. Okay, ask them for the answer key. Right, if your school teacher dilly-dally, then you just say, yeah, I need this to revise for my econs during holidays. I don't think they are going to say no lah. Huh? Alright, okay, so 3 days before, please send these 3 documents to me. Okay, clear everyone? Good? Right, okay, so today we'll be looking at lesson 2. Okay, so lesson 2 is fairly straightforward. Okay, it is the case on education. Do y'all see that? Okay, if you're seeing the same thing, okay, please drop me okay or yes under the comment section so that I know you are seeing the same question paper. If you have printed beforehand, that is also good. Okay, great, thanks. All right, so yes, okay, we will kickstart today's question. Okay, I let y'all decide. Okay, I almost let the cat out of the bag. Okay, but I let y'all decide. Right? So the question choice that we will be doing, listen carefully. Okay, don't do the wrong question. Okay, will be question B, question D1, and D2. Okay, these are the 3 questions. If you like to do the rest, okay, question C is beyond your depth for now. Okay, this is macro. Okay, but if you want to do A1 and A2 yourself, you can do this on your free time. Okay, make sure you submit by Sunday. All right, so whatever that you do as extra is always behind whatever that you do in the main practice. Okay, so we have question B, D1, and D2. Let me emphasize again, our focus today is D part 2. All right, so I would like you all to spend some good time, okay, to do an outline, okay, for these 3 questions, okay, with the emphasis on question D part 2. Clear? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys say 10 minutes to do that. 10 minutes to do an outline for these 3 questions. I don't think you need an outline for D1, okay, but D1 is more like a definition question. Okay, so question B and question D part 2, okay, do an outline. Okay, remember to submit your outline as well. Right? Okay, and later on tell me how they all find the question. Right, I'll see you guys in 10 minutes time. Right, peeps, I'll give you all 5 more minutes to wrap up. Okay, it seems like some people are facing a slight difficulties or need more time. Right, so 4:49. 4:49. And make sure you read the extract thoroughly. Okay, and thanks for sounding out for those who need more time. Thanks. Hey, if you're not sure about anything, can drop me a PM, right? All right, time's up. Okay, thanks. Stop writing. So once you're ready, please turn on your webcam. All right. Okay, so I'd like to hear from all of you. Okay, just now I've withheld my personal perception of this question. And how do you all find this case study? Okay, on the difficulty scale of 1 to 10. Maybe you can key this. Let me know. 8 and 7. Okay, great. So it seems like it is somewhat on the hard side. So which question do you all find it particularly hard? Out of the three, I don't think B1 is a concern. There's only 2 questions. Okay, D1 is a concern. D1 is a definition question, right? Right. So we have D2. Maybe we start with question B first. Oh, we start from question B first. Right. I'm going to surprise one of you, Nas. Yeah, I'd like you to unmute yourself and share with us. Okay, what is your approach? What do you think B is asking?
I guess like the inverse relationship type of questions,
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you approach this question?
I guess you look at like table 3 and figure 1.
Okay. Figure 1, table 3 and figure 1. Right. So what kind of relationship do you manage to find out?
I say inverse.
Sorry, inverse.
Yeah.
Inverse relationship. Okay, great, thanks. All right, so all right, so now let's look at figure 1. Figure 1 is our main concern. Okay, you can see that on the y-axis, okay, we are concerned about your wages. Your x-axis is your experience, right? So we realize that, okay, for both tertiary and primary, especially tertiary, you can see that the gradient is what, positive or negative? What's the gradient for tertiary? How of you are taking H2 math? Don't need H2 math to know that, right? You realize that the gradient is, okay, please type out. It is positive. For tertiary, not primary. I'm asking tertiary. Okay, so we can actually see that. Okay, one of the relationship that you got to be concerned about, okay, is that monthly wages and experience for tertiary, okay, is generally increasing, right? Okay, you can also see that, okay, even for primary, okay, from 0 to 10 up to 31 and 40, you can see that the gradient is also positive, right? Do you see that? Okay, so we can actually deduce that, okay, generally, okay, this question has 2 relationships, okay, remember. Okay, so Nas approach is correct, but you didn't identify the primary relationship. Okay, so you can see that, okay, one of the relationship is positive or direct relation, right? And you got, this is the identify part. So what causes this positive and direct relationship? What do you think is the cause of the positive relationship here? Let me type it out. Let's try. If I don't see people typing, then I'll ask you to participate really. Why do you think monthly wages and experience are positively related? So now let's start from the x-axis. You realize that when you are more experienced, you command higher wages, right? So what is the main cause of that? What do you think is the main cause of that? Why do you think you justify greater wages with more experience? Okay, so someone brought up more knowledge, better job position. So in economics, there is this word, this P word, right, that's very important. Okay, what is this P word? Okay, we'll be using this when we are going on to supply side policy. Okay, but this P word is exceptionally crucial. Okay, this P word is known as productivity, right? Okay, because of more experience or more knowledge accumulation, because the labor is what? Is known to be more productive. Okay, therefore they command higher wages. Make sense? Okay, so this is the first 2 marks. Remember, this question is 4 marks. Okay, possible relations. Okay, this is a 2x2 question, 2x2 framework. Right? So the next 2 has to be what? Non-positive, right? So we can actually see that generally, okay, both tertiary and primary exhibits a positive relationship. We see that tertiary is all the way positive. Okay, whereas primary is up to 40 years old, positive. Right? Beyond that, not 40 years old, I'm so sorry. 40 years of experience. Okay, if not, it don't make sense. 0 to 10 doesn't mean child labor. Okay, it's your years of experience. So you can see that beyond a certain age range, beyond a certain year of accumulation of wages, down here, okay, what do you see this? Okay, what is the gradient of this? This is what? This is a negative gradient, right? Okay, it tells you that, okay, the more experience you accumulate beyond 31 to 40 years of experience, you command lower wages. Do you all agree? So must identify this as an anomaly. Okay, so you can see the second relationship is inverse relationship. Okay, and you have to identify the inverse relationship for this particular experience range for primary. It doesn't apply for all, must be very specific. Only the one that I circled. So this one is a little bit more tricky, but I would like you guys to try. Why is it that only this particular range of experience accumulation gets penalized? Why do you think that wages drop for this particular range of experience accumulation? What is the main reason behind that? And why is it primary only? Why is it not tertiary? You realize that tertiary tends to flatten out. You can see that your wages is increasing at a faster rate, after that a slower rate. Okay, but for primary, okay, it actually flattens. It actually goes negative. So what's the reason behind that? And let me give you a hint. Okay, you can look at, number 1, the job nature of primary education holders. Number 2, you can look at the age profile of people who accumulated this amount of experience. So what can we comment about the age profile? Okay, for people who have accumulated more than 40 years of experience. Okay, are these people likely to be old, elderlies or young or young adults? They are likely to be what? They are likely to be elderlies, right? Okay, so you have to combine this thing, elderlies, okay, and if they are having primary school education, for instance, okay, what kind of job profile do you think they are likely to hold? Okay, if you are a primary school holder, primary school education holder. Okay, fair enough. Someone brought up they cannot learn as fast as they grow older. Don't have enough education to go to higher positions. Right. Okay. This sounds like what you hear on dinner table every day. Right. Okay. I perfectly acknowledge that. Okay. But we need to tweak the perspective to suit the question. Yeah, I agree. Okay. That they are not learning. They are not learning fast enough. Okay. But that being said, okay, you realize that tertiary tertiary holders, their wages still experience positive growth. So this line of argument does not apply for tertiary holders. So you have to find something that is specific to primary education holders. What kind of job profile do they hold? For instance, if you all quit A levels, okay, what kind of job would you all get? Okay, so probably something like what? Something that is probably more manual work, manual driven. Agreed? So I realize that okay, if your job profile is more manual driven, okay, you have reached a specific age range, okay, you're aging. Okay, what does it tell us about your productivity? It starts to decline, right? Okay, so you have to make logical guesses like this. Okay, you have to state that the age profile, the age profile, they are likely to be elderlies. Okay, and based on their primary school education holders, what is their job profile? Okay, likely to be manual work. Okay, and therefore the combination of these two will lead to a fall in productivity and fall in wages. So remember, okay, when we talk about wages, okay, one of the primary drivers is productivity. Okay, so if you forget everything, don't forget this P word are very, very important. Yeah? Okay, anyone has any more questions for this? So such questions are fairly popular. Okay, so you have to be careful. Okay, identify the two kinds of relationship. Okay, so positive cannot miss lah, huh? Okay, and inverse is only applicable for one of them. All right, I'm going to move on to our focus for today. Okay, D part 2. Right, so I would like you all to type out what is one challenge that you have for D part 2. One biggest challenge that you have encountered for D part 2. Are you all able to type it out quickly? Yeah, I hope I can end on time or before time today. But I need your participation. Okay, so share with me. Okay, what is one challenge that you encounter for D part 2? Alright, so someone brought up cannot identify reasons whether education should be adjusted, not sure about the antithesis. Alright, so what is the thesis then? Someone brought up not sure about the antithesis, so what is the thesis? Let's form the thesis first. So before you address so thesis is addressing positive externality of consuming education. So the question is asking you should be adjusted or not, right? Now how does this fit into the thesis or antithesis? Alright, but one thing that we do know for sure is education-based policy or education-based extracts more or less points you to what? Positive externalities, right? Sometimes maybe there's info failure. Okay, education could be a merry good, we don't know. Okay, but more or less they are likely to be presence of market failure. Agreed? So before we even go into thesis and antithesis, let's take a good look at the question again. Right, today we'll spend more time here. Okay, I hope today we can have a meaningful question D part 2. Okay, so what are the microeconomic objectives here? The question necessitated a plural. So what are the objectives down here? Hey, remember, for those who have been with me since your first year, I kept emphasizing on these two E's, right? What are the two E's? Right? So the two E's are allocative efficiency. For those who didn't get an E right, okay, please reflect on that. Okay, equity. You can put equal, you can slash equality, okay, but don't bring in both equity and equality because they are pointing, the concept is the same. Okay, so these are the two E's we're looking out for: allocative efficiency and equity. Now, having know the objectives, now, okay, we need to ascertain, okay, why is this question asking you about two countries here? Let's break this up. Do you think United States and Singapore are the same? They are unlikely to be the same, right? Okay, so later on, I want you all to try one more time. Okay, look out for the different problems that are faced in United States and Singapore. Okay, so we see that there are two objectives down here: efficiency and equity. Later on, we'll see, okay, how policies can be better adjusted to suit the individual needs for United States and Singapore. I'll show you how to construct that. Okay, so basically, okay, when we have education subsidies down here, okay, you can see that the pairing of such keywords, okay, education subsidy. Okay, just now someone brought up positive externality. Okay, we can see that these two are more or less like a combo, right? Okay, so positive externality falls under which one? Efficiency or equity? So someone brought up, what problem does positive externality falls under? Okay, so positive externality is efficiency. Okay, allocative inefficiency. Okay, when there's positive externality. All right. Okay, so here is how you should approach this question. Okay, so I have to acknowledge that this question is slightly tricky. Okay, so in order to have a meaningful breakdown, okay, I'm going to show you how to construct the thesis and antithesis. For this question, okay, it is easier to start with the antithesis. Okay, I will show you why in a short while. So what is the antithesis down here? Remember, okay, your antithesis or thesis must come from the question, right? So if you look at the question states education subsidies in the US should be adjusted, right? The antithesis will be should not be adjusted. Make sense? Yes? So please copy down this. Alright, so I'm going to further break this down. Okay, so for US and Singapore, okay, you can lump them together. Both of them should maintain status quo. Status quo means what? Don't do anything about the education subsidies, right? Okay, or not adjust, up to you. So what does status quo or not adjust tells you? Okay, it tells you that, okay, education subsidies are presently spent already. Make sense? Okay, and they are going to achieve specific objectives. So effectively, the antithesis down here, I'll call this AT, okay, is asking you what's the concept behind this. Okay, it is asking you, I'm not sure whether your school uses the word HIW. Does your school uses the word HIW? Okay, how it works. So there are two micro points, or there are two sub points under the antithesis. Okay, so look here or listen carefully. The first sub point you want to illustrate is how education, or how under consumption, let's call this A, under consumption of education arise. okay, as the result of positive externality. Okay, this point is quite big. I'm going to go on to illustrate. All right, so for students who joined me earlier, remember we used a 6-step framework? Yes? Okay, what is the 6-step framework? Okay, we need to identify or define. Okay, I'm not going to write this down because I'll be running out of space, but you got to listen carefully. To define and identify, okay, education exhibiting positive externality, right? Okay, so step 2, okay, you got to identify what is a spillover benefit to others. Are there any spillover benefits? Okay, I'm sorry, D1 actually asks you to state positive externality really. Oh, so D1 and D2 are likely related. Agreed? So in this case, you can afford, okay, to skip, okay, the first 2 steps, okay, of identifying education as positive because it's implied already, right? If not, they won't plan it that way. Do you all agree? All right, so you can just briefly illustrate that education exhibiting positive externality and quickly move on to your rational decision making framework. Right, so what is your rational decision making framework? Do you still remember? Okay, so a rational consumer will consume education up to where? Type it out. What equals what? Okay, MPB equals to MPC. Okay, this one should come in as your second nature. It shouldn't take so long. Okay, so you are supposed to illustrate how the presence of the external benefit, okay, will lead to a divergence between your benefit curves, okay, and underconsumption. Okay, I'm just going to do a simple recap because we have done this earlier on this year. Yeah, so I just want you all to focus on the execution. Okay, so the presence of the external benefit will lead to your marginal social benefit and marginal private benefit, okay, diverging, okay, and referencing to your socially optimal level of MSB equals to MSC, there will be underconsumption at the private consumption level. Okay, so this will lead to dead weight loss and allocative inefficiency. So this is not where it ends, this is where it starts. So you are supposed to illustrate how, I'm going to change the colored pen. Okay, how it works. Maybe I change to maybe purple. So how it works here is exceptionally crucial. Okay, so HIW here. So how does education subsidy works? Okay, so this is the part where a lot of students are not very strong at. Alright, so remember, okay, most of the time, a subsidy or a tax is going to be indirect. Okay, so it has to go through the producers first. Okay, so producers, okay, will experience a higher cost of production or lower cost of production. Higher or lower? Subsidy, my friend. Hey, are you okay? Okay, okay, lower cost of production. And what do they do with lower cost of production? Okay, so producers experiencing lower cost of production will pass off the cost savings. Okay, they'll pass off the cost savings to consumers, and consumers will internalize the external benefit. Okay, and consume up to the socially optimal level QS. Okay, so from a diagram perspective, please make sure you include your diagram when you draw. This is how it looks like. Okay, so look out for MPC plus 1 and subsidy here. Okay, make sure you shift the correct curve. This is the curve that you should shift. All right. So this point A, is actually quite ambitious. There's a lot of things to address. You have to identify the problem, okay, and you have to state how education subsidies work. Okay, if time doesn't permit, then you can possibly skip some of the steps under the problem. You can skip some of this. Okay, can skip some. Okay, but the emphasis is on how it works. Very, very important. And this is the emphasis. Okay. So we only address efficiency. Alright, how does inequity comes into the picture? So we can see that you can see that there is underconsumption. This is point B. Underconsumption of education as a result of inequity. When there's inequity. So you got to explain, how does inequity, leads to underconsumption of education. Okay, so we have also gone through this, some time back. Okay, but I do realize that inequity is hardly tested. Okay, most of the time is efficiency. So I will just spend a bit more time here to brush up. So what you need to consider, is you need to have a good understanding of how inequity arises. Inequity arises when there is what? Unfair distribution of resources, right? Pertaining or specifically targeting at the lower income earners. Lower income earners, will be priced out of the market. Why would they be priced out of the market? Because they do not have sufficient dollar votes. And this will lead to ineffective demand. So these are the 4 keywords that you need to stuff, when you consider inequity. So you need to pinpoint, who are I wouldn't say they are lower income earners. Maybe lower income household will be better here, because this is education. Agreed? Right? Lower income household has lower effective demand, for education, because of being priced out of the market, insufficient dollar votes. So is this desirable? Not desirable, right? So now we are going to illustrate how does the education subsidy works. So essentially how it works here is the reverse of the top. Right? So producers, likewise, they will enjoy lower cost of production. They will pass off cost saving. And you can see that, especially for the lower income earners, they will enjoy higher economic vote. They will no longer be priced out of the market. They will enjoy greater effective demand. So this is how you are going to reverse the illustration of inequity. I'm done with the easy part. What's the hard part? So the easy part requires you to work on your foundation. These two are your foundation. The hard part is actually the thesis. But once I actually address the thesis, it's not as hard. You realize that, like that only. Now, remember what I've planted earlier on? I've mentioned to you that you should be looking out for what United States and Singapore are facing separately, right? So now I would like you to look out or make a choice, between the two countries. Which country is likely to be more inequitable? Can we find from the extract? So the whole idea behind this is status quo means that we don't change things, right? We leave the policies, okay, to work its wonders, okay, and pray that everything, okay, turns out well. Okay, but the thesis requires us to look out for why is there a need to adjust. Adjust means what? Spend more or spend less. Okay, or it could be more targeted spending or less or spending less on a particular group. So whether there is an adjustment or not, okay, depends on what's the more pressing issue that's faced by these two countries, right? So we know that there are two problems or two objectives to be met: efficiency and equity. Agreed? So what can we deduce about each country? Singapore, is it which problem is it facing more? Is it more inequitable or more inefficient? If you were to make a guess. The first thing first is, do we need to guess? Okay, so first of all, whenever we want to find out whether it's inequitable or not, okay, we need to look out for a particular indicator, right? What is the indicator? What is the G word? What is the G indicator? We all haven't learned, serious. No joke. Learned before? Okay, I think I'm lagging, right? I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, so my question is, okay, what is the G word? Okay, so in order to find out whether which country is more unequal, we need to find out which country has a higher Gini coefficient, right? So you can see for Singapore and United States, which country is more unequal, Singapore or United States? Okay, so for Singapore, remember to tie up, okay, what the question wants and the thesis. We need to identify one objective that the country can do better. Okay, so we obviously see that Singapore can do better in addressing inequity, right? Okay, so Singapore, okay, you want to form a proper thesis, this is how you construct. Singapore should adjust education subsidies better towards addressing inequity. Why is that so? Number one, okay, we see that, okay, Gini coefficient is higher. Okay, is there any other indicators that illustrate that, okay, Singapore is unequal, more unequal? Are there any more indicators out there? Alright, you can also consider using this. Okay, we can see that for Singapore, okay, what can we conclude about the government spending on each student? On tertiary student, you can see that it is spending more than primary school student, right? Yes? But at the same time, we can also see that, okay, barely 1/4 of primary school students were admitted into university. So what does it tell us? Okay, it tells us that the spending is lopsided. Right? It's focusing on the minorities in tertiary education. Okay, whereas only very few of primary school holders are going to university. So you are spending a lot more on this privileged class of tertiary education, right? Okay, then this inevitably drives up the wage gap. Make sense? Okay, when people go into university, they will actually enjoy higher wages. So if you want to address the adjustment process, make sure you identify what is the inadequacy of whatever country is facing. Okay, so you must highlight the problem. So you must highlight that inequity is present in Singapore. Cite case evidence. Okay, I've given you two already. Okay, and you want to illustrate how would you adjust that. So does it mean that we should adjust towards cutting, or what we call readjusting towards emphasizing on primary school, and lowering tertiary spending, or reallocate resources more to primary school? So far, so good. So using the same process, we have to identify United States again. What is the problem that United States is facing? And how can we better adjust? So let's assume we can't know for sure, but if we identify Singapore as being more inequitable relatively to United States has to be relatively more inefficient, right? If not, you realize that these 2 points don't stack very well. Agreed? So how can we conclude that United States is relatively more inefficient? I want you all to look carefully here. Can you identify where is it? Let me take a look. Look at extract 4. What can we conclude about this? Tertiary enrollment rate of up to 80%. What does it tell us? As compared to Singapore only 25%, right? So what can we conclude about tertiary education in United States as compared to Singapore? Is it consume more or consume less? It's likely to be consumed more. So we can see that there is likely to be overconsumption. Overconsumption of tertiary education. I'm so sorry, my head is blocking. I'll scroll it down. Overconsumption of tertiary education. So when there is overconsumption of tertiary education, it is quite likely that there is what? I don't know whether just now you all took a glimpse of the answer. Here's the answer. Over subsidy. Make sense? So United States is clearly spending too much on subsidy. That's why there is a very high tertiary enrollment. It doesn't mean that 80% is not good, but probably the optimal rate or efficient rate, is probably 50-60%. But if you over subsidize, then you're going to create overconsumption. And you're going to lead to a relatively inefficient outcome. Because you are consuming beyond your socially optimal level. So this is the level that you can see. Overconsume. It's very hard to hit a sweet spot. You can consider using this diagram. So what can we do? We should reduce tertiary spending. All right. I will leave you guys to build a synthesis. It's quite an ambitious writing. So if you don't build an antithesis, I think it's fine. Okay, you can see that the thesis is the one that you build later. Okay, normally we build thesis first and antithesis. Okay, but in this case, okay, you build thesis later. Okay, so later on when you approach this question, okay, I hope you have gotten the ones in blue and in pink. Okay, make sure you address the left hand side first. Okay, and before that, then you go on to the right hand side. If not, it will look very weird. Okay, you don't adjust first without identifying what problem to address. Okay? Right, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes for a quick break. Okay, when you're back, okay, we'll kickstart with our TP. Yeah? See you guys in 5. Right. Okay, once you are ready, please turn on your webcam. Thanks. Hi, boys, gentlemen. Ready to go? Right. So my time now is 5:35. Okay. I will probably create 2 breakout rooms. Okay, and 1 second. I'll assign you all to the breakout rooms. Okay, 40 minutes. You can join the breakout rooms. Any problem, just flag out to me. Okay? See you guys in 40 minutes time.
Mr. Teo.
Right. 1 second. Okay, go ahead. What's your problem?
What question are we supposed to do?
Yeah lah, the 2 questions. BD.
Must we do
BD1 and
DI?
D2. I already told you all earlier.
So all three
Yeah. 40 minutes. BD1 and D2. Thanks. Hey Nasri. Question B, D1 and D2. Don't do the wrong question. Thanks. Dylan, any questions? Just ping me. Dylan, okay? Continue writing, don't look stone. You look stone, yeah. Alright, great, thanks. That's it for your written assignment. Okay, so once you're ready, turn on your webcam. Okay, prepare a green pen for correction purpose. Thank you. So I will be going on the internet connection, not very good today. But I will be going through this these three selected questions. Prepare a correction pen and do it on the spot, yeah? Any questions for me, please drop me under the comment segment. I would love to address questions. Okay? So please prepare your green pen. We'll start right now. Alright, so question B. Okay, for the viewers for the answer segment, make sure you catch up with the earlier discussion part on how do we construct the outline. Okay, if you're watching this, click fresh. Okay, if not, okay, you can go. We can proceed. So we'll see what are the possible relationships between monthly wages and work experience. Remember the two relationships that we have uncovered earlier on. Okay, you can see that. Okay, they are directly or positively related. Let me change the color pen. Alright, and you will probably want to emphasize on the years. Okay, you actually see that, okay, across the experience span of a year of the worker, you want to emphasize from 0 to 40. Okay, that works as well. Okay, so the year is exceptionally crucial because later on we will be identifying, okay, the inverse relationship. Okay, so what you want to illustrate is when you accumulate work experience, productivity rises. Okay, and this will result in higher wages. So remember, this P word is exceptionally important when you want to justify higher or lower wage. Okay, everyone? Okay, so you can see that wages of workers in the primary school education segment decline after 30 years of experience. Okay, so like I've said, okay, the time period is exceptionally crucial. I'm so sorry I forgot to bold. Okay, so if you forget to insert the time period, you get penalized. Okay, very, very important. Or there must be some attempt to illustrate, okay, the work accumulation time period. Okay, so you can see, okay, such workers are usually low-skilled workers, okay, manual workers. So when they age, productivity declines. Okay, so you have to guess the age range and the job profile of primary school education holders, right? So I often joke with my students who are from the IP side that your highest certification is PSLE. So make sure you don't flop that. Right? Hey, am I right? I think so, right? IP is PSLE, okay, they don't take O levels, huh? Alright, so let's go to D1. Okay, so D1, there are 2 marks here. Okay, the first mark will be allocated to definition. So I'm looking out for spillover effect. Okay, benefits associated to the production or consumption of a good spill over to others, unrelated to the producer or consumer himself. So this question coincidentally did not specify consumption nor production. Okay, if either of this is stated, then you have to strike out the other one. Okay, if consumption is used, then you can strike out production. So sometimes they'll ask you positive externality arising from education. Then in that case, then you cannot use production anymore. It's a consumption-based externality. Okay, so just be mindful when, okay, we can include both production and consumption as a general form of definition, and when we have to be specific about that. Right, so you can point out in this context, this is education. Okay, so you can see that higher wages is a private benefit. Okay, this is the MPB itself. Okay, so please don't bring in higher wages as an external benefit. Okay, because it does not have spillover effect to others. Right, so some of the usual external benefits are lower crime rates, okay, and social stability. Okay, if you another school of thought, okay, is having a generally higher level of education will raise your literacy rate. Okay, and this can promote more foreign direct investment and create more jobs. And that is also accepted in some school. Okay, but this is usually the most straightforward one. You just remember lower crime rate can really, But sadly, when you study more, you don't get happier. Do you all agree with me? Okay, I can't be sure. Maybe you guys can tell me how you all feel. Okay, so I've gone through this in depth already. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the outline again. Right? Okay, I'm going to go straight to the answer. Okay, you will see what is missing in your... I'm sorry, I'm lagging again. So what I'm saying is I won't go through the outline any further. Okay, I will just go straight to the answer. Okay? So make sure you identify the question objective, which is efficiency and equity. Right? So if you can define them, it's good. If not, I think it's good enough. Okay, you want to define what is education subsidies. So what I've mentioned, subsidies and tax are usually indirect. Okay, it goes through the producer route. There are instances where subsidies are direct. Okay, so when subsidies are direct, they go to consumer directly. It raises the MPB. Okay, so today we are not going to go through the MPB channel. We are going through the MPC channel. Okay, so I want you all to focus on illustrating that. Okay, when you're using the illustrating positive externalities. Okay, so I'm just going to open up, okay, what we have discussed earlier on in the discussion. So remember, status quo, okay, state the antithesis first, okay, or should not be adjusted. We should leave the education subsidies to work its own merits. Okay, so you want to identify the problem that will arise. So you can see that market failure or allocative inefficiency may arise. You can use these two interchangeably. Yeah, I still have some students that incorrectly categorize inefficiency and inequity to be the same. They're not the same. Okay, so allocative efficiency happens where P is not equals P and MC are not the same. Okay, or MSB is not equals to MSC. Okay, these are the two broad definitions. Okay, so we have positive externalities. You can see that education down here exhibits positive externalities of consumption. So, okay, can we bring in info failure here? Okay, the answer is look out for the question. The question already necessitated education subsidies. So subsidies is tied in nicely with positive externalities. We don't correct info failure with subsidies. Alright, we normally correct info failure of education-based policies. Okay, so this is something that you should avoid. You should not define education as a merit good here. Although in theory it could, okay, but you don't do that here. Okay, don't complicate things. Life very complicated already. Alright, so you can afford to skip the first two steps of positive externality. Go straight to the third step. Okay, so a rational consumer will consume MPB equals to MPC. Okay, and remember to state why would they consume up to there. Okay, they will consume up to MPB equals to MPC to maximize their satisfaction and welfare. Very important to maximize their own satisfaction and welfare. So what is the MPB? Okay, you can see that this is the knowledge, better job prospect. Okay, of consuming an additional unit of education. MPC is the monetary and opportunity cost of pursuing an additional unit of education. Make sure you state what's the MPB and MPC. Okay, the third party benefits has been stated earlier on. Okay, you in question D1, you can afford to skip that. Okay, I mentioned here relate to the earlier illustration. Okay, so you can see that the presence of the MEB will lead to the divergence and underconsumption between QP and QS. Alright, okay, so you can quote from the example. Okay, with education subsidies to the providers. Okay, you can see the government funds 75% of the total cost. Governments provide subsidy to direct institutes in the United States. Okay, remember to cite, very important. Okay, cite your evidence where you get them from. Alright, so this is how it works. Alright, so you can see that this will lower the marginal cost of production. Producers will pass off the cost savings. Okay, this will help the consumers to internalize the external cost. Okay, so you can better, if you can better relate it to a diagram. I'm not sure why I forgot. Okay, you can possibly relate to the diagram here. Okay, show this. Okay, MPC1 plus subsidy. Okay, relate this here. Okay, you can show here MPC1 plus subsidy. So the keyword here is actually producer. Must go through the producer route and passing off the cost saving. Okay, and when consumers internalize the external benefit, they will consume at the socially optimal level. They will achieve the micro objective goal. Okay, remember to link. Okay, as for equity, is fairly straightforward. Okay, like I said, there are certain keywords that I've used repeatedly. Okay, so these are some of the keywords that you want to consider. Yeah, like I said, I probably did not correct this. Okay, like I said, avoid using merit good. Okay, just use education is good enough. Okay, let's look out for some of the keywords that I mentioned earlier on. Dollar vote argument, right? Okay, so you can allow the lower income household or the poor to have access to the good, right? Okay, so the another two keywords that I previously missed out is effective demand. See? Okay, so you can ensure that the lower income households will have effective demand when they receive subsidies. They will no longer be priced out of the market. Okay, so what you can consider inserting is pricing in or pricing out. Pricing into the market. Okay, and the next one is effective demand. Yep. If for those who are not sure what is effective demand, okay, effective demand refers, please copy this down. Okay, demand tells us the willingness and ability to consume a good, right? That's in short. Okay, so effective demand means that these two must be present. The reason why inequity arises is because one of these two conditions are absent. So which one of these two? Willing or ability? Likely to be ability, right? Or they are willing but they are unable. That's why it becomes ineffective demand. Okay, so remember to use this keyword, very, very important. Alright, so I'll quickly move on to the antithesis. Right, so you can see that overall the antithesis follows our approach. We have to find out one area that each country can do better. Okay, so in this case, okay, we have identified that Singapore can do better in addressing inequity. Why? Number one, only a minority receives university education, but a disproportionate amount of spending goes to tertiary. So we can see that there is lopsided spending, right? So you can also further illustrate that there is a lack in equity, okay, in addition, in light of the high Gini coefficient, okay, that was stated in table 4. So what can we do here? Okay, we can possibly okay, more can be done and improve. So we can redistribute income, okay, by further emphasizing on primary school education. Okay, so you can see this is actually related to A part 2. Okay, A part 2 we didn't go through. Okay, but A part 2 actually talks about the emphasis on primary school education. Maybe you can spend more there. Okay, and we can also better prepare each child to succeed in life. Okay, it has lasting effect to correct poverty and inequity in the future. Okay, so it's one bird, two stones. Just by focusing, instead of tertiary, we focus on primary school. Okay, you can cite extract 2. Okay, that the emphasis on primary school education has lasting effect throughout the life, an additional benefit. Okay, instead of overspending on tertiary education. Now, United States has a different issue. United States, okay, we realize that, okay, this generally is overconsumed. All right. Okay, so you can use this diagram to illustrate the possibility of over-subsidy, and you want to illustrate, okay, how a generous or over-generous subsidy can result in overconsumption. Okay, we can further use back this diagram to show. Okay, you want to justify why would overconsumption arise. So possibly there's relatively high level of MPB, okay, and very low level of MEB for tertiary education. Okay, therefore, okay, if you subsidize, it will push the consumption beyond the socially optimal level to OS here, over subsidy. Okay, and therefore, what can we address for better efficiency? What can we do? Okay, so it follows a two-step process: identifying what the country can do better, and what can be done. Okay, so for efficiency, the United States, okay, what can they do? They could reduce or remove across-the-board subsidies for higher education, divert resources elsewhere, simply use a subsidy cut to reduce the US budget deficit, okay, or spend it any other place that needs the resources more other than tertiary education. Okay, we can also see that there is a possible mismatch of jobs. Okay, you can see supply of college graduates and demand for industry. Right? Okay, so in the future, we'll relate this to structural unemployment. We don't need it now for. Okay, we can see that all the more we should cut the subsidies because United States are producing tertiary students that don't fulfill the requirement of jobs. Okay, increase the rate of subsidy for industry relevant causes. Right? So, for instance, okay, if engineering, okay, if there is a lack of engineers in the United States, then United States, okay, should allocate subsidy. Okay, there's a chronic lack of shortage of workers in that area. Okay, liberal arts and social science probably can live without subsidies. Okay, I'm not saying that it's not a good cause, okay, but it's probably dependent on industry. Clear so far? Okay, so in a nutshell, United States not as efficient, Singapore not as equitable. Okay, and we need to find out what we can do. Alright, so from the data, it appears that Singapore education subsidy should be adjusted more for equity, United States for more efficiency. Okay, however, okay, this is where it comes into the picture. Okay, this is a wild card. What are the other factors may play a part? Okay, other than the prevailing problems as stated in the extract. Okay, for instance, okay, there are increasing number of elderly citizens who did not receive formal education. Okay, so influx of low-wage foreign workers. Okay, this will cause inequity to arise aside from the lack of subsidy. Okay, so this is the keyword. Right? Aside from the lack of subsidy. So on top, okay, of what we have discussed on education subsidy, there may be other problems that add on to these two micro objectives that the government want to solve. Okay, so we want to identify what are the other factors that may contribute to that on top of education subsidy. Okay, so depending on the root cause of the adverse outcomes, apparent if inefficiency and inequity can be reduced for the adjustment. Okay, so you can see that we can continue to provide training programs for the elderlies. Okay, in this case, okay, if the root cause, okay, is elderly workers not receiving formal education, then we can retrain the workers. Okay, so education subsidies is not a one-stop fit-all solution. Okay, we need to see what is the main problem of inefficiency and inequity. Okay, likewise, you can see that, okay, if foreign worker is a problem, you can help to put a cap on foreign workers to leave the wages, so that domestic workers, okay, can enjoy higher wages, and this will close the income gap. All right, so I for your synthesis, I think this is a very good point that you want to consider. Okay, so other than education subsidies, okay, what else can attribute, okay, to inefficiency and inequity, okay, that the government should consider? Okay, this is how you want to synthesize. All right, okay, so I'm so sorry I actually over exceeded the timing a little bit more. So right now, okay, I'd like you guys to type out one thing you have learned today. One thing that you have learned today from covering this. Anything that you have learned today. Don't worry, I won't judge you. Okay, and then we can call it a day already. Any one thing that you have learned today? We can possibly look out for what is the problem that they have stated earlier on, whether it has been addressed. Okay, somebody brought up Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient is exceptionally important to address inequity. Okay, and when we move on to macro, is related to inclusive growth. Okay, so put a star. Okay, inclusive growth. Okay, Nas, what have you learned? Okay, the importance of the two E's, right? Okay, so efficiency and equity. Okay, so like I said, in the future, okay, we will be learning the concept of sustainable growth. Sustainable growth, okay, or this macro goal has some efficiency element involved. Okay, efficiency. Okay, inclusive is looking at Gini coefficient in inequity. Okay, so I'll just plant a fruit for the future for you guys to consider. All right, so there are a lot more arguments. Okay, for this question, you can look out for in the answer key when I activate that. Okay, so if you have not finish your correction, I'll upload the clip. You can hop into the clip anytime and just finish up your correction. Okay, and submit by Sunday 2359. Okay, so with that, okay, I'm done for today. I'm so sorry I exceeded 7 minutes. Okay, and thank you for joining me. Okay, so remember to send in for those who have booked an exam consult, remember to send in these 3 key documents, especially the school answer key. Right, with that, thanks. Okay, I wish you guys have a good weekend ahead. Bye.